Hello and welcome to what is a very sunny February morning here in the southeast of England, and also welcome to what is going to be my project for 2019, a 2005 Mini Cooper S. So my goal for 2019 is to get more exposure in motorsport, and more specifically to try and get on a couple of track days this year, starting to ramp up probably towards the summertime and then in 2020 and so on. In order to do that, I thought, do I want to track an existing car, or do I want to go and buy a car specifically to be kind of moulded into what would be effectively a bit of a track weapon? So I decided to go down the latter route and find myself a car that I could purchase, renovate, do some odds and sods to it just to make it track focused. Now, when I made that decision, the next thing was, well, what car should I go for? The obvious, well, I say the obvious choice, one of the obvious choices, and for many people the obvious choice, was to look at a second-hand Mark 1 or Mark 2 Mazda MX-5. Now, that to me sounds like a great proposition. However, being 6'4", fitting in one of those is probably not going to happen, and also in terms of safety, if God forbid I do have a crash in one, there's not really much for me to be saved by, other than the dashboard hitting my legs almost immediately. So I thought, well, probably the best thing for me will be some form of hot hatch, and I didn't want to spend too much, so my budget was around £3,500 to £4,000, and in which case a hot hatch was the most likely option. So I looked on the classifieds, looked around various hot hatches that are out there, you know, your mini, or your minis, also your Clios, your Renaults, etc., etc. After looking for a number of months, I kind of started to settle on the idea of a Mini Cooper S, and was a bit torn between whether I would go for a R53, i.e. the Gen 1 supercharged version, or whether I go for the R56, which is the Gen 2 turbocharged version. Now, reading the various forums, etc., there are horror stories, as they always seem to be with anything that you look for in cars, on these R56 engines. So I know you have to take these things with a pinch of salt, but nonetheless, was something in the back of my mind. If I'm going to be tracking this, chances are I'm going to be putting it through its paces, and therefore I don't really want to have a car that when I'm driving at 50% because I'm afraid or worried that it's going to blow. So I gave it a try anyway. I gave the R56 a go, and also drove a number of R53s. So what I found with the R56 was the versions that I was driving, for the money that I wanted to pay, they were quite old, they were quite high mileage, and to be quite honest, they were pretty crap. They felt quite sluggish, they felt quite cumbersome, they just didn't feel good, and they definitely did not feel like a track car. So, as I say, those are the versions that I was looking at on the budget that I had. I'm sure spending a little bit more, you get yourself a great version of that car, and I'm sure it's a great car. But for my budget, it felt like the R53 was the place to go. So anyway, I gave a couple of R53s a go, and this particular one I tried out that has a few modifications for it that the previous owner wanted to make the car, I think, more of a driver's car, probably more of a track car. So we took it out, and I was absolutely blown away with it. It is just an incredible little car. It handles like you can't imagine. It's got a great little soundtrack. The supercharger is just addictive, and I was just sold there and then. Told the guy, fine, let's have it. So I bought it off him, and yeah, here we are. So the plan is to, I'm not too sure at the moment whether how extreme I'm going to go, whether I'm going to put a roll cage in, strip it out, etc., or whether I'm just going to put in a number of changes, tweaks that you typically find on more track-focused but daily drivable cars, so road legal cars. Things like strut braces, so to make the car more, increase the rigidity, handling, etc. Also cold air intakes, intercoolers. For this car, because it's a supercharger, reduced pulley wheels, things like that. So these are the sort of things that I'm going to start looking into this year, and I don't want to be going too crazy. I don't want to be spending thousands of pounds on a car that effectively is only worth probably £3.5 grand. So I want to do this quite smartly as well, if I can say that. I want to be smart when I come to making these decisions. So one of the things that I have gone ahead and bought is a cold air intake by a company called Orranje. Not really sure how you pronounce it. I've definitely pronounced it wrong, but I'll put it up on the screen. Anyway, so I went and bought a cold air intake from these guys. Now apparently they do these for a number of cars. I think predominantly minis is what they focus on. Now the cold air intake, the idea is to bring in more cold air into the engine, which makes the engine more efficient, run more efficiently, but also run with more power. Now I don't know how more efficient it actually is, or how much more power you're actually going to gain. It's probably not going to be a lot, but I've got one. I think for track use in particular, it's going to be better than the standard system. Now, a lot of you might have heard from the Mini side of things anyway, this equivalent, it's called the Dave F cold air intake, and this is I believe a one-man band who's created this cold air intake, and he was building them himself probably once or twice a week. He'd build a couple of them anyway, which makes them very hard to come by, and I couldn't get hold of one when I was looking, so I looked for for an equivalent, and the Orranje, that's what we're going to call it, the Orranje cold air intake was the one to go with. So one of the things that I've been told is that the sound impact it has on the car. So what I thought we'd do is we'd go out for a bit of a drive and see what it sounds like as stock with just a normal air filter in there, and then once I've put this installation through, I'll go out again, have exactly the same setup, and see what the impact is on the car sound. Apparently it's meant to really have a great impact on the supercharger. Anyway, let's give it a go. I mean, it sounds pretty good as it currently stands. So to think that this is going to increase the sound of that supercharger whine, that's going to be pretty special. But yeah, it's just so addictive. Listen to that. I mean, that's what's great about this car. Like, it's not just about the speed that you can pick up, and you can pick up some speed in this thing, but it's just the whole theatre of it. You're just carving through these roads with this supercharger that's just whining away, and yeah, you're not going to be making any lap records, but my God, you're going to be smiling whilst you're doing it. It's just such a great car. It just feels like a go-kart. I mean, today the temperature's probably about 3 or 4 degrees, 4 degrees apparently. There's been clearly snow and ice, muck and crap all over the place, so I don't really want to be going too fast in the car. But yeah, I mean, well, that was the sound. So the sound sounds good, but I don't know driving this thing. It's so much fun. So I think having that cold air intake in here will be, if it's going to make the sound even better than that, then awesome. I can't wait. So welcome back to the Mini. You've joined me exactly a week from where we left off earlier. I've now fitted the cold air intake, and as I said, let's bring it back out to the same roads, similar conditions actually, and just let's see what it sounds like. So yeah. I don't know how that comes across in audio, but I mean, it is definitely an improvement from what it was like stock. The sound of the supercharger is much louder. It's much more prominent. Also, one of the interesting things is that it seems to be a bit of a deeper tone to the actual supercharger whine itself, which I think is a great addition. One of the other things that I've noticed as well is, I don't know if it comes across on the audio, but there is quite a prominent kind of intake sound of the car. So when you're kind of on the cusp of the supercharger kicking in, you can start to hear the air being heavily sucked into the engine, and then that's kind of where your maximum throttle response is coming through. That's something that wasn't there when the standard airbox was fitted. So yeah, an additional kind of sound that I wasn't really expecting, but definitely a positive one. So would I recommend fitting a cold air intake? Well, it really depends on what you want to get out of it. So for me, as I said, I really wanted to enhance the sound of the supercharger and the engine. So that for me was the primary goal. The benefit of getting additional power, additional cool air into the engine was just an added plus, really. So yeah, for me it's a great addition. It was relatively inexpensive, the Orranje product that is, at 150 quid. It was also really easy to install. So I will I'll upload a video, an installation video after this one. And it took me about 30 to 40 minutes to install the product itself. So I think from that respect, you're getting quite a big impact for not a lot of money and not a lot of time invested. It's definitely something you can do yourself. The Orranje product, would I recommend that? I think I would. It's one of these things that when you open up the bonnet, because it is a mini housing, i.e. the product itself is a mini component which Orranje have just kind of tweaked to fit the cold air intake. I personally really like that. I like the fact that you've still got the quality build of Mini. It sits in the right place. It's not going to be pulling in warm air from the engine because of where it is located. So yeah, I think that's absolutely a big benefit of going for this particular product. Equally, the K&N filters, yeah, they're meant to be pretty decent. So there's nothing that I can say good or bad about it. I suppose the build quality is pretty robust, so from that respect at least I would definitely give that a thumbs up as well. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this this video and this insight into what my plans are for this car in 2019. I will be doing further modifications that I will post online and document if you are interested. So yeah, until next time, cheers.